Hi, welcome back. We're going to continue the video tutorial for Django Python development work. This is video segment number 8. In last video, number 7, we talked about how to get the data, out of the database and then present that on, on the website, right? So that's the page we talk about how do you taking these records out of the database and put them on the hold on a second, put them on the database, right? So let me restart this, okay? Because I have to restart this. So kind of good. So this is what we left off in the video 7, okay? So basically we're taking the records out of database and then we constructed the pages, drill downs level by level, right? From the category of the training course, then click, and we'll list all the courses belong to that category. Okay, so all right. Now in this segment, what we're going to talk about is uh, how do you get the data into the database through the website. Obviously, because this is a web page, so we will be using HTML form, right? So what we want to display the HTML form and taking the data from a user and then somehow, some way, magically get to the database. Okay. Now to do this, the basic workflow for Django framework is this. Okay. So the first step is if the project has not created a forms.py yet, we need to do that. We'll create a module called forms.py under the application directory. Okay, so in that form.py module, we will create the model form per each model class we created. So in this case, we created two: category and the course, right? So there will be two model forms classes. Okay, each of them matches to the model, so we can take the data in, right? Then we will basically customize the form based on what we desired. In terms the input field and how would you want to validating the data, so on and so forth, right? So uh, the, we'll do that, and then once we get to this working right, created, then we need to head to the template directory to create a HTML template, which will basically present the form in HTML format, right? And after we done that, we need to add a URL pattern to the switch, the urls.py file. So it's really the urls.py, right? .py file. We need to add a switch in this module to say, hey, you know what? When you click on this, on the button to want to add this the record to bring up the form, where this URL is supposed to go, right? So that's what we need to make a change on that module as well. So let's start with this, okay? So this is what we left out from the video segment, the last segment, right? The tutorial. So if you look at this, based on the here it says the step 1 is actually created this form py file. So I mean the project doesn't have one, so we create one. Now keep in mind, folks, this has to be in this name, okay? And don't use other name. It has to be forms.py because that's the only way Django framework knows to where to grab the form related the model classes, model form classes, where to construct the form. Okay, so it has to be in this name, forms.py. And to save time, again, I'm gonna copy paste the code to, so at least give us. Okay, so just send. All right, So what the first we wanted to is, if you look at the web page, right? So we wanted to add, first thing we want to add is actually to add a new category, okay? Right? Because the category is the most topmost uh, the model or the object we have. So we want to add a new category to this. So on this one, we will add a new form, right? So we'll add a new form module. So this would be the form module we're going to add. Okay, I'm going to copy paste. So the form is called category form, right? So uh, what we're doing here is actually to, let me get the, we need to do a couple of things. Okay, Django, we need to input a couple of things here. So and right, so that's all we have. Okay, so just keep in mind what we're talking about, right? So we said that the form has these fields: name, description, view, slug, and status. Okay, now notice here, okay, the slug actually is not a user input field. Remember, we talked about in the model, it actually is created programmatically here, right? So the slug, right? This is automatically created, okay? It's populated, use this function, auto slug field, okay? So there's no reason to have input. That's why I use this widget form equal to hidden, okay? Meaning this is a hidden field, no need to input, show. And they have a status. So that's what really, this is what the form is. Now, however, the visually when you display this rendering it, I only want to show two fields, name and description. So you listed here, okay? What are the field when you display it you want to show? Now there's a fundamental differences. Hidden input you define means this is still on the form, is just not showing it, okay? This is what when rendering says show this. So they're a little bit different, okay? So that's what the standard uh, from a calling to construct a form. That's the, that's how it look like. Okay, we will do the same thing for the page later, for the courses form later. Okay, so this is, we did the first step, right? We did create a form classes, and we create update the view, the handle, the include, display the form, saving the form data, flag the arrow where it occurs, and so on and so forth. Those steps are already done. Now we are moving on to the step 5, okay, to create a templates for this form, right? So right now in this, we actually have no HTML templates to handle the add a category. So we need to create a new one, right? So again, this is HTML templates, so we have to, right? We have to add a brand new one, right? Again, to save time, I have the text pre-entered, so I'll show you what the, so it will look like this, and I'll explain to you. Okay, so this is what it look like. So we're adding, basically we're adding a heading, it says add a category, right? And then we add a form. Remember we said it's a HTML form, right? So the form, this is very interesting. So for the folks who's new to this, the the Django template language has some very interesting tag. This one we will talk about this in depth, in a later segment. This is basically allows the client to send the data, post the data back to the server. Okay, this is the interesting one. This is a Django template language special. Basically, it says take the form, show all its field in a paragraph. So it will be lined up one like this, one, two, like one at a time. Okay, it's paragraph per input field. So if we do right, this will show page the input field will line up from top down to the bottom, one at a time. Okay, it's almost like one line per field. So that's what as paragraph. Okay, there are other options as table, as something. You just need to look up Django's uh, you know document. Okay, so we got this done. The next step is we need to add a URL to matching to tell where to go, right? So this is what I'm going to do. So we'll go to the URLs here, right? So now we need to add a new field to it to say, okay, when you add this to it, where it's supposed to go, right? So the the, the actual example would be is this. So you would say add, right? Add category, right? So then we will say, once this is entered, right? Where would it go? So we'll go to a function on the view called add category. So right now it says it's flagged. It says it's not there. Well, of course it's not there because we have not added. So we just have to come over here, add that to it. Okay. Again, to save some time, I already did this. So at least okay, add the category. So we have this. We'll create a function called add category, right? So this is not I need to input this because it's flagged it already. I need to input to reference this. Okay, so add this to the top. All right. So now the URL knows what to call now. The URL says, hey, when I don't know why this is not picking up. So anyway, there's a bug in these in the PyDev. I've had experience for so long. So now basically it says if the URL says is add categories, right? Then I am gonna call this function. Okay, let me get this. Okay, so that's what we'll do. Now obviously we needed to make sure the name is actually correctly matches. Okay, so that's pretty much it. We did everything the step says we're supposed to do. Okay, all right, a new view, add a new view to the URLs, right? So this, I'm done all of these. So let's run this, okay? Right. So we'll go back to the page, and we click on this, right? So now one thing I forgot actually is to add a link to say click. How do I? There's no place to click to add to go to the page, right? So now even though I have the link here, right? But I need to add href to the index because this is the index.html page. So I forgot to do this. So let me go back to this, add here. Now it's interesting though, where you put this. I'm gonna put this if category just right behind this. Okay, so that's what I'm gonna do. So let's do this. Index. What is it? Yeah, this is where here. Okay, so we're gonna put this href here, right? So what this says is just a okay. So what this says is basically href added this is add a new page. So when this is loaded, there will be a href link underneath of it for you to click. When it clicks, it goes to the URL, right? Wrangle that so and it end up in here, and then it knows what function to call. Okay, so let's just reload this. Oh, it's not happening. it's again, it's these auto reload is being disabled, so we would have to restart it every time. So reload, there you go. So I have an add new category, right? So we want to add a new category here just to show it works. Okay, so now here is the, so I have actually, I'm gonna use the AvTech as an example because it's easy. They have a very good very, actually this example is copied from pretty much the the AvTech's website. Okay, so you have a course here, right? The difference is we're breaking down the layers hierarchically. They are showing you everything in one page. So we'll just create a new one called network security. Okay, so I'll save some typings, and then the description, we'll just leave this blank. Okay, is this category still active? I'll say yes. So right. Oh, it's already there, huh? Network security. So it's actually pretty smart. You figured out. So let's do this. Microsoft, right? So we'll leave this. That's it. So we create a new category called Microsoft. Now, here's a question I have for you folks, right? There are a couple of things this example shows you. First of all, why is it only showing 5? Well, if you can recall here in the view, the index.view here, right? Look at this, what we did. In the index, we only ask for 5 records. Okay, that's why it's 5. Now, if I change this to 10, that will show this. The one I just added, Microsoft, will show. So let me rerun this, and then you can see. Okay, all right. So I'm asking for 10 now instead of 5. So there you go. You see, Microsoft, right? So we have it. So that's how is being controlled in terms of how many records gets shown because of my query. Okay, that's the landing page, right? The index page. The next interesting piece is when I try to enter a category which the name is already there, network security, remember, it actually comes back, says, hey, you cannot do that. Well, where's that validation happens, right? So what actually happens is in here in the model. So remember, it did allow me to enter the network security. When I did this, like, I am actually entering the network security, right? It's only happen when I say create a category, it come back tell me you cannot do that, right? So what this is about is actually in here. So in the model I built, right? Notice here, guys, this line 5, okay? Here, this is the magic, unique true. So basically, I'm telling them the model, and the model in turn is telling the SQL server, says SQL database says this field is unique. Okay, and that's why the check kicks in when I enter the same validation rule kicks in when I enter the same category name. Okay, so that's another point. The other interesting piece on this form is this piece. This, right? This is a boolean field, right? If you check or you not check, yes or no, right? So in this one, so how do I do that in the form? This is where in the form, right here, this is what I have. Okay, so you define a field called boolean field, right? And then that's the label, and then so when you define such way, if I when you define such way, that shows up in this checkbox. Okay, all right. So these are the two things I want to emphasize. So now we finished the form basically. It looks all, now it takes the data, enter it, right? So it's all good. However, though, if you get to this point and say, okay, you know what, I got the category, but how do I would like to add a new course to the category, right? So we're gonna implement that, okay? So let's stop this. We do the same thing. Follow the steps. The pattern is actually pretty straightforward. So you go into the forms.py and create the form. So we go to the forms.py, right? We need to add a new form now. We already have the category form. We need to add a course form, right? So let me just copy paste it because it's much easier that way, quicker. So we'll create a new course form. Okay, so this is the form for for course. So it's interesting though because some of the stuff we covered already. Title, summary, these are pretty interesting one, but this one's interesting. It's URL field. So this really means the form, Django form internally will perform a validation for you, okay, to make sure this is a legit URL format when you're entering it, right? So the boolean, you have to see it, right? And boolean field. So these are the, again, we talk about the view field where it's hidden, okay? So that's what, now we need to including the reference to the course. So let me go this, okay? Right, so that's, and also there is a select field, okay? Select date field. I'm going to enter that. So, and this is also very interesting, and I'll tell you once you see the visually, okay? All right, so now I create a form in the forms course form in the forms.py, right? Next step is, we already defined the field. Next thing we need to do is actually create a view, a function in the function in the view to actually redirect this, right? So this is what we'll do. Now we in the tutorial, in the previous form I did this in the fourth step. I can do this in quickly just now. So since I already here, so I might as well do it here. So we'll add a function to say, so Django will know where to go, right? So the function is called add course, right? So this is what we will be adding the course, function. This will be called, okay? So there are some missing classes I'm referenced to, and I need to add that to it, okay? A course form. Sorry. Okay, and then I think it's the HTTP response redirect. Now, I actually, this is something we really should talk about. I'll address that quickly, okay? So, HTTP response, and then one more thing is the reverse, and I'll talk about that, okay? Right, so we add a function to reroute to display the add course HTML templates, okay? So the step, next one is to create, step 4 is to create a template, right? The template to add, so we can add the categories. So what we do is to create a new HTML template, and we're gonna call it add, right? Add course, okay? So to save time, again, I am just gonna copy this to at least, and I'll explain it again, just like I did with the adding of the category, okay? So do this here. Okay, so I have the form and title, make a change, okay? So what this says is just like we did before, right? And it will accepting the post data from a client, and then we'll render the every field on the form in a per line, per paragraph, per one field, okay? So the most interesting is this piece actually, is when the data gets posted, right? Where you want that go when the data posts over to the network. and once the data gets to the server, it will redirect to a new destination. What we wanted to is actually go to this place. Now it's interesting because if you look at this, this is the add course. That's this function, right? Add course, this function. Notice here, what is this? Well, what this is actually, remember we had in our view, right? The function we do add course, we set it up the category. So by the time you get to this, your category is already set. You wouldn't get to the course without going through the category like this, right? So if we go back, oops, sorry. Anyway, when you go back from you're coming to the course from the category, so you already have the category, and what this does is says going to the URL from category slash the category slug name, right? So if it's Microsoft, it'll be Microsoft, and then you want to add a course under Microsoft. That's what this URL says, right? So we get this. And the next step is to follow the step. Create an update templates, then add a URL switch, a pattern to map, the URL to the view function. So now what we are doing is we'll add that to it, okay? So this is what we're going to add to it. So, right, so it's the category and then the slug name of that particular category, right? Then add course. When this gets called, when this URL gets called, it will go to the add course function, okay? Where's the add course function is? The add course function is in the view, remember? Right? We added to it, so that's where this go, okay? Right? Okay, so this is where the direction it will go. Now, keep in mind the folks just kind of there might be some confusions. Well, Jack, you said, this the form, add course form, this tells where to go. But if that's the case, then how the heck could this even ever gets called, right? Because it starts from here. Well, it turns out actually everything starts from here. Okay, add course. What happens is when the link is clicked on this, right? It will call the view function. Okay, so the view function add course gets called. Notice now, at that particular time, when you click on that, the request method is actually not post. Believe it or not, it's not post. It actually is not post. So this function will this part of the line 85 all the way down will never get executed. So it will just come out of this, right? It creates a form. It sets up the data dictionary, right? And then it return with this HTML, right? I'm sorry. So it basically sets up this if it's not a post, right? Now it will call this HTML. So it gets the HTML at content HTML. This gets displayed. When you click on the submit, right, the data payload of this form, when you click submit, it will go to this URL at course, right? Now it come back again to this module. It says, oh, you got this, then call the add course again. Notice now, at this time around, remember this is a post, right? So this time around, when this gets called, the request method is actually post. Then it does the adding of save the data to the database. Okay, when it is done, it does a redirect. It goes back to the page, okay, to this page, right? And the reason it goes back to the page is goes to the category page, okay, and then category it goes to the category slash the slugger name. So if this is a Microsoft, it will be say category slash Microsoft. So it goes back to that page, right? So that's the flow of it. Okay. So we did this, and then once we did this, it's pretty much done, right? Now, the only thing we're missing, remember in the index when we did it, we need to add a link in the category page here. So, uh, so we can click on, right, to add the courses. Okay, so let me, it's this at the category page. Let me bring it, it's here. So what we need is to add a link. Again, to save typing, I just copied over from what I had before. So this is interesting, right? Where to place this is actually very interesting. Notice, okay, on the nine, line 9, right? This line, and 21 and 27. It's a if else switch to check if the category is there. So it really, this line, if I put this line in here on the 20th, then if there is no category, the uh, add a new this one, add the new course will never show, which is really the right place to do if you really think about it, right? So if we do here, because if we put it here, what's the point? If you don't have a category, you cannot add a course, right? So this is the right 21 is the right place to put this. Okay, so let's run this just so at least you can see it. Okay, so go back here again, and we'll reload the page. Now we have an add new course. Okay, so if we go back, this is what we have. Click on Microsoft, and let's add a new course. Okay. Oops. So it says, what is it? Is it templates not exist? Oh, that's right. We have. Did we put this here? I did, right? So add course. Add course. The URL. Oh, let me try it. Okay, let me look at this. Okay, so we did this. Goes to this. Okay, let me look at this. Okay, so if we look the category, we are going to add a new page. When this gets loaded, add a new course. The URL course template. So let me look at this. Let me give it one more with this. Okay. The URLs. Category. I think I think I deleted something, so let me get the add it back. This okay, because I accidentally deleted something. Oh, hold on a second. No, that's right though. Hold on a second. Okay, but I apologize for this because I somehow it just want to make sure I'm getting this right. Okay, so this is correct. I must be missing something. So this and the view. Ah, I know what it is. I have to add it. Was I add to this? Hold on a second. It's added to the course. Add course digit. Yeah. So let me try this. This is the time to actually bring up the debug. So let me do this. Okay. So I'll start the debug to figure out why it was not working right. So we'll do this. Come back. All right, and I reload this just to make sure, and then click on the course. So it matches the category add course. So it will stop here. Right. Let me step through this. Okay. So we will click. This is where step over because I don't want to trace them down. Okay. So we'll get this. It's the course form. Okay. Because I'm not doing the post, right? I supposed to go come in right away. So now I'm going to add Rango. Ah, here you go. It goes to Rango add form. That's what we're trying to load that templates. Okay. I must have typo something. Let me look this. Okay. So I'll stop the program. All right. Go back to the view. So that's the problem. You see, I have the this is here, folks here. This I have made a mistake on the typo. Okay. All right, because this was rendering looking for add courses and I mistyped it. Okay, so let me go back to fix this. Okay, we'll just rename this add. Right, so now this will work. So if I go back to this, now again, what I did was reload this. What I did was I was able to identify the name was wrong. So let's go back. Right, we start from here. So click on the Microsoft, try to add a course to it. Now we have it, right? So now again, we're gonna borrow this from AppTech. So we have our Microsoft. We're gonna do a network course. So okay, so we'll just copy it here. Just the URL on this page is here, right? And summary, we can just skip it. So I'm gonna do this. There's a reason, even though this doesn't make any sense to have a phone number here, but I will explain to folks later. Okay, in the next video segment. Okay, so here is where the piece I was talking about. This is it's actually a widget, and it allows you pick the dates. Okay, right? And this is interesting because you know, a lot of website actually has a date picker, and that doesn't come with the Django framework. But we're going to show you how to do this with use the jQuery and Bootstrap. Okay, so if you just in case, well, remember I said some uniqueness of it here, right? This is where the date selection. Okay, right? Okay, this is where the date selection field is. Okay, and that's the model. Let me show you the form. Okay, in the form, remember I actually specifically says widget is select date widget. See that, right? And this widget. That's the widget of the Django form, which created this thing. Okay. Otherwise, it will be just a text field you have to type in. Obviously, when you type in, how do you know the format is valid, right? Okay. So again, this is the Boolean thing. We talked about the Boolean field. Okay. So if I click this, now I created one. Okay. Let's add a new one. So we do a new one. Okay. So we do a new one just to kind of show how it works. So we have the Microsoft Office course, right? So we do a Microsoft course. Again, the URL is this. And I'll just copy this, just the summary here, right? And the phone number, this. Again, I'm going to talk about this in the next segment, okay? So we pick the date like this, right? And then create a course. Now we have two courses, okay? So we can go back to the home page. If we want to do this, add more here, we can do that too. So go to security, add a couple more courses, right? The network security course. So we do it's the Cisco certification, right? The URL, I leave this blank, and this, right? All right, so that's how we do it. So now I have shown you how to create a form to accepting the data from the web page and send it to the server, ultimately end up in the database. Okay, so basically this is, it's, even though the look can feel differently, but the functionality wise is the same as this, right? So you can add the new categories, right? Okay, and then you can add the, in the courses, you can add a new course here, right? So basically it's the same thing in admin application, which somebody else built it for us, but we achieve the same thing. Okay, so you can drill down, you can add to it, and go back to this, home page, right? So that concludes today's tutorial. In the next tutorial, we're going to talk about is the how we're going to make them pretty. Okay, uh, because right now it's kind of plain vanilla. We're going to use jQuery and Starsheet, Bootstrap to kind of make the site pretty. Okay, so we'll talk. See you next segment. Thank you for watching.